Have you ever noticed that every time you avoid a conflict, something gets stuck in your throat? That word you didn't say, that feeling you buried deep inside. And no matter how many times you tell yourself, it's not worth it, I'm above this, deep down, you know the truth. You betrayed yourself again. Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, "What we fail to face within ourselves ends up imprisoning us." You know this is true. Every conflict you dodge becomes a quiet prison built inside you. Every silence you force upon yourself out of fear of confrontation is a tiny death of who you really are. A piece of you that dies to please people who don't deserve control over your peace. Maybe that's exactly why you clicked on this video, because somewhere inside, you know it's time to break those chains. Today, you'll finally understand what Nietzsche meant when he wrote, "One must still have chaos within oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star." Because to be truly free, you must learn to face conflict head-on. No excuses, no fear, no more betraying yourself. And I'm going to show you, guided by Nietzsche's own words, why your fear of confrontation is paralyzing your life, how it feeds your resentment, and how to turn it all into real power, starting right now. If you're still here, it's because you've already felt what Nietzsche warned us about more than a century ago. Those who live to please others slowly die inside. Since you were a child, you were taught that avoiding conflict meant you were mature, that silence was noble, that swallowing your truth made you the bigger person. But Nietzsche called this by its real name: slave morality. A morality invented by the weak, by those who chose to kneel instead of fight. And this poison drains your energy every single day, pushing you deeper into a life of quiet bitterness and hidden frustration. In this video, we're going to tear that lie apart, together. Everything you're about to hear is directly inspired by Nietzsche. No empty theory, just uncomfortable truths that set you free. All I ask is for your full attention, because after today, conflict won't be your enemy anymore. It will become the fire that reveals who you truly are. The lie you learned about conflict. Since you were a kid, you've heard things like, just let it go, don't argue, you're better than that. Silence is wisdom, but let me ask you, is it really? Or did you simply learn a big lie? A lie that secretly controls almost every decision you make today? Friedrich Nietzsche saw this with terrifying clarity in his work on the genealogy of morals. He wrote, "The so-called virtues of humility, patience, and submission do not come from goodness, but from disguised weakness." Think about that for a second. You were taught that avoiding conflict shows strength and maturity, but Nietzsche reveals the opposite. What you call virtue is often just fear. Fear dressed up as goodness. Fear of not being loved. Fear of rejection. Fear of being seen as difficult or selfish. And the more you accept this lie, the weaker your true self becomes. Every time you swallow an injustice, every time you stay silent when you should speak up, every time you avoid setting clear boundaries, you drain your own power bit by bit. You think you're keeping the peace, but in reality, you're building a silent war inside yourself. Nietzsche called this mindset slave morality, a moral system built not by the strong, but by the weak, not to free you, but to chain you down. He said it bluntly. They call it virtue, but it's just the fear that stops them from fighting. Can you see now how this lie might be running your life without you even noticing? You got used to believing that being good means avoiding conflict, when in fact, this passivity is exactly what's making you miserable and resentful. But there's an even bigger price you pay for believing this lie, a hidden cost that's quietly eating away at your happiness and freedom. In the next section, I'll show you exactly what that price is and why it's far higher than you think. If this content resonates with you, please subscribe and like. Thank you for your support. Slave morality, the silent trap. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote something deeply uncomfortable, but absolutely necessary to hear. Slave morality is what turns weakness into virtue, submission into merit, and cowardice into humility. Heavy words, right? But pause for a moment and think about your own life. How many times have you justified your lack of action, your fear of saying no, and called it patience or humility? How many times have you labeled your inability to stand up to abuse or injustice as wisdom or superiority? What Nietzsche uncovered was shocking. This so-called moral code was never born from genuine goodness. It was created out of helplessness by those too powerless to fight back openly. It was crafted by the weak and the resentful, not to free them, but to excuse their own inaction. And here's the silent trap, hidden inside it all. Every time you accept this slave morality, you strengthen your own weakness. You're not being peaceful. You're just avoiding the one thing you fear most, the conflict that would expose who you really are. And make no mistake, this silent trap shapes every choice you make. It controls your relationships, weakens your boundaries, limits what you dare to achieve. It's that quiet voice whispering, "Don't push back, just accept it. Don't cause trouble." Nietzsche warns us clearly, this submission isn't virtue, it's voluntary slavery. And the more you give into it, the easier it becomes to accept new abuses and injustices. Little by little, you start believing this is normal, when in truth, it's a prison you've built with your own hands. But this slave morality hides an even more destructive poison inside it, something so powerful that Nietzsche called it the most dangerous toxin of the human soul. And that's exactly what I'm about to reveal next. What you'll hear might be silently destroying your life right now, without you even realizing it. The hidden poison of passivity. Friedrich Nietzsche described with brutal clarity what happens inside us every time we suppress our vital impulses. Whatever doesn't get expressed turns into poison. Think about that for a moment. All those times you chose not to speak up, not to set clear boundaries, not to stand your ground. Where do you think all that energy goes? It doesn't just disappear. It turns into resentment, a hidden poison that slowly eats away at you from the inside. Nietzsche explains this with painful precision in On the Genealogy of Morals. Resentment is the emotion of the weak, those who cannot strike back directly, so they store up silent bitterness and grudges within. Maybe you know exactly what this feels like in your own life. That quiet anger you pretend doesn't exist. That lingering anxiety every time you swallow injustices and disrespect. That endless internal dialogue where you imagine the perfect comeback you never had the courage to say out loud. This is exactly what Nietzsche calls resentment. And it's not just emotional pain. It's something far worse. It's a poison that seeps into every corner of your life, slowly destroying your happiness, your confidence, and your inner peace. The real danger of resentment is that over time, you get used to it. You start to believe that living with this quiet pain is normal. You forget you're poisoning yourself day after day with the bitterness of battles you never dared to fight. This is the true trap of passivity. You think you're choosing peace, but what you're really choosing is poison. A poison that slowly drains your emotional health, damages your relationships, and erodes your self-worth. And without realizing it, you become an accomplice to your own suffering. But Nietzsche also made it clear there's a way out of this emotional prison. There's a hidden philosophical truth that can turn this poison into personal power and real freedom. A truth that once you discover it, will forever change the way you face fear and conflict. And that's exactly what's waiting for you in the next section. The secret to breaking the fear cycle. Friedrich Nietzsche believed that every human being carries within them a vital force, an energy he called the will to power. But pay close attention. This force has nothing to do with dominating others. On the contrary, Nietzsche explains it clearly in Thus Spoke Zarathustra. The will to power is the force to affirm your own life, to face challenges, and to stand in your existence without excuses, guilt, or fear. And here's the secret you probably needed to hear today. You don't need to eliminate conflict to live well. You need to learn to face it with integrity. And that means reclaiming this vital force you've been suppressing for far too long. Your fear of conflict is a direct result of repressing your true inner strength. When you suppress your will to power, you suppress your own identity. You passively accept injustice, you lose confidence, and you allow others to define your worth. Nietzsche warned about this very clearly. Those who don't dare to set boundaries become slaves to the boundaries set by others. The real key to breaking the fear cycle is to reconnect with this inner force you were conditioned to hide. Start with small but powerful steps. Say no when you truly mean no. Set clear boundaries without guilt. Stand your ground authentically, even when it's uncomfortable. Understand this: conflict is not the same as violence or aggression. For Nietzsche, conflict is simply the arena where your truth and authenticity are tested and proven. When you avoid it, you avoid life itself. When you face it, you reclaim who you are and earn respect, confidence, and emotional freedom. And that is the real secret. Conflict shouldn't be feared. It should be embraced as an opportunity for strength and self-discovery. But Nietzsche also knew that to complete this transformation fully, you must grasp an even deeper truth, something he called the three metamorphoses of the spirit. This powerful philosophical idea can radically accelerate your journey toward freedom and forever change the way you see the world. And that's exactly what I'll break down for you in the next section. The three metamorphoses, your inner journey. Nietzsche left us a powerful philosophical roadmap to break free from the emotional chains that keep us stuck. In his masterpiece, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, he described three essential stages our spirit must pass through to achieve true freedom. The spirit becomes a camel, the camel becomes a lion, and the lion finally becomes a child. The camel represents the first stage of your life, the part of you that accepts everything, that carries the weight of society's expectations, other people's opinions, and responsibilities you never truly chose. The camel is strong, but its strength is only for enduring, not for creating. It accepts without question and prides itself on this, confusing submission with virtue. But there comes an inevitable moment when the camel can no longer bear the load. Then emerges the lion, the rebellious spirit that dares to say no. The lion symbolizes that moment in your life when you finally start to question what you were taught, the rules that never made sense to you, the boundaries you never truly accepted. The lion battles what Nietzsche called the dragon of thou shalt. This dragon has 1,000 scales, and on each scale is written, you must obey. You must avoid conflict. You must accept without complaining. The lion is the moment of courageous rebellion. It's when you declare your identity, your strength, and your truth, not because you want to destroy, but because you must claim space for your true essence to live. Nietzsche makes this clear. One must still have chaos within oneself to give birth to a dancing star. Only then comes the final stage, the highest and most beautiful, the child. The child represents the rebirth of innocence, pure creativity, and a spirit that now creates new values, new truths, and new paths, no longer chained to social expectations, no longer limited by fear, free to affirm and celebrate who you truly are. Nietzsche wrote, "The child is innocence and forgetting, a new beginning, a game, a self-rolling wheel." This journey is deeply personal. Maybe you're still in the camel stage, carrying burdens you never chose. Maybe you're feeling the lion awakening inside you, pushing you to change. Or maybe you long to be reborn as the child, free, authentic, and endlessly creative. Understanding this journey is already the first step toward real liberation. But Nietzsche made it clear that to complete this journey and fully become who you truly are, there is still one final, crucial challenge you must face. This challenge could be the most decisive moment of your entire life. In the next section, you'll see exactly what it is and why facing it could transform everything. Becoming who you truly are. Nietzsche wrote a line that perfectly sums up the greatest challenge you will ever face in life. Become who you truly are. At first glance, it sounds simple, but think carefully. How many times have you lost yourself trying to please others, live up to social expectations, saying yes to things that, deep down, never made sense to you? Nietzsche called this the greatest danger in human life, living a life that isn't yours, playing a role you never chose. Every time you avoid conflict, every time you swallow an injustice out of fear, you're giving up the chance to discover who you really are. Because for Nietzsche, conflict isn't just unavoidable, it's essential. In Exe Homo, he says it with total clarity: the individual finds their true identity only in battle. in conflict with themselves and with the world. Pause for a moment and reflect deeply. How many times have you taken a path you didn't want just because it felt safer? How many truths have you left unsaid? How many times did you agree to things you didn't believe in just to avoid an argument? Who would you be today if you hadn't dodged the conflicts you needed to face? Here's the harsh truth. You can only discover who you truly are when you're willing to face the discomfort of conflict, because it's in the raw clash with the world that you find your real values, your real passions, and, above all, your real strength. Nietzsche never promised an easy, comfortable life. In fact, he promised something far more valuable, the chance to live authentically. In his words, whoever wants to learn to fly must first learn to stand and walk and run and climb and dance. One cannot fly into flying. And that's exactly what you must do now. Embrace the conflicts you've been avoiding as the path that leads you straight back to yourself. Stop playing the role others have written for you. Stop being passive in your own story. Start declaring, without fear, who you really are. Remember this: every conflict faced with courage is another step closer to the person you were always meant to be. But Nietzsche left us with one last, uncomfortable truth, one that's as painful as it is freeing. It spells out exactly what your silence is costing you, and what I'm about to reveal in the conclusion might be the final piece you need to break free from everything that's been holding you back. If you've made it this far, it's because you deeply felt that something in your life needs to change. Friedrich Nietzsche said it bluntly: silence in the face of injustice is complicity. Understand this clearly. Every time you choose not to act, every time you accept injustice or abuse, you're not protecting your peace. You're slowly destroying your inner strength. Today you've realized that avoiding conflict is not an act of wisdom or kindness. It's a silent trap that steals your authenticity. Nietzsche reminds us, only those who dare to live in alignment with their own truth, even in the face of inevitable conflict, are truly free. It's time for you to make that conscious choice. It's time to trade passive silence for active courage. It's time to become who you truly are, without fear of disapproval, without fear of losing anyone's approval. Don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait for later. Nietzsche put it powerfully. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. That courage is already inside you. Now it's time to use it. Now, I want to ask you for one simple but powerful commitment. Type this phrase in the comments right now. I choose to face my conflicts to be free. Writing this is more than just a comment. It's a clear, firm decision you're making with yourself, here and now. If this video spoke directly to your heart, hit the like button. It helps this message reach more people who need to hear these words. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next videos will take you even deeper on your journey to true freedom and authentic living. Remember this: your silence might cost you far more than you think. It's time to live fully and fearlessly. See you in the next video.